Hey guys, welcome to the WWE podcast. We are going to get to the mailbag in just a minute with all of your questions, comments, concerns, and maybe even a few rants thrown in there. We've got some familiar voices and some new ones, so let's get everything going right after this. Hey guys, so I know you've heard me talk about other podcasts on this show and recommended some to you, and many of them have been sponsors of the show, but there's one podcast I do want you to check out. It's so different than everything else you've listened to, and I can guarantee it. And they're only 3 episodes in, and you can already tell that this is going to be a podcast that just skyrockets to the top because it's so well done, yet it's so new. And here's the name of it. The name of this podcast is called Konaverse. It's Konaverse. So that's Konaverse. So basically what Konaverse is they're a conversation experience platform. They're hosted and curated by a global technology leader, and they're all about human stories. And they do talk about how tech brought us together, but it's about the human stories, learning from them, which is the glue of this podcast. So you're definitely going to want to check it out, guys. Their first guest was John West. He's a consultant for Content Stack. Mark Serveas, he is a senior applications architect at Humana. And Derek Dysart, who is a Sitecore/CMS platform consultant and Sitecore MVP. So check them out, guys. I really think that you'll enjoy it. Plus, the intro to their show is awesome. It puts you in like a trance / kind of a relaxed state. I don't know how to explain it. You're just going to have to click the play button. The intro to their show is it's just so good and so relaxing right off the bat, but yet you learn a lot from their show. So go check out Konaverse podcast. It's Konaverse podcast. They're available on Spotify, Libsyn, and Apple Podcasts. So go check them out today.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your #1 source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
All right, you know what time it is. It's time to hear you. Enough from me. It's time to hear what you guys are thinking. You guys are angry about, sad about, happy about. It's that time to talk wrestling from the fans' perspective, from the listeners' perspective, I should say. So let's not waste any time. And first, before we get going, I do want to give a shout out to the newest patron of our show, Joseph Alanis. So, Joe, I hope you are enjoying your content. Thank you for supporting the show. Much appreciated. And if you want to join Joe, head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast or search us out there and you get just a ton of benefits. I'll leave it at that. Just a lot. So I'll spare you the details, but I would encourage you to head on over there if you're interested in not having any ads in your shows. I'll tell you, I'm subscribed to a few, and it is a beautiful thing to not have to skip or just suffer through the ads. So just check it out, guys. I'd encourage you. For $1 a month, it starts. And so, okay, let's get into it, guys. So we have, as always, our priority list here from our patrons, which is one of the perks of being a Patreon member, in which you get priority placement on these shows. You don't have to dig through the show to hear your question answered. So how about that? All right. So the first one comes from Scott. And Scott wrote in on Patreon and says, "Hey, Matt, just a couple of questions for the mailbag. 1, Eva Marie, man, the girl is hot." Yes, she is. "Yes, she's also very ripped and hits the gym 5 hours a day. I'm interested in what you think she's going to offer WWE, the women's division." That's your first question. Scott, I'm glad you brought this up. I'm a little higher on how they presented Eva Marie this past week, in that they didn't sexualize her. They showed off her body, but in a way that said, "Hey, I worked for this." Not in a way that says, "Hey, I paid for this." See the difference? It made me feel like she's an athlete that she does truly bust her ass to be where she's at. She doesn't just hang out with push-up bras sitting on, like, you know, muscle cars or whatever they did the first week or two with her vignettes. So I think she'll bring the athleticism, or add the athleticism that already exists in the women's division. I mean, it's hard to say because I don't know what kind of gimmick they're going to give her yet. Vignettes can often be misleading to actually translating to, real life use. So I don't know beyond, she has red hair. Okay, so did Becky Lynch. So there's that. But she adds a presence. It appears that they are going to be adding or casting her as a babyface, I should say, based on her message to everyone this past week that, if you work hard, you can achieve your dreams, all that, kind of stomach churning crap. So yeah, I'm good with it. And, okay, let's get to your next question. We all know that Reigns is killing it, at the moment, but what do you think takes over? Who do you think takes over his role eventually? I don't know if Roman Reigns' role is going to be replaced. I mean, he's doing so well. It's hard, right? When somebody compares somebody and says, like, for example, Dolph Ziggler is the next HBK. I don't like that, because that puts them in an unfair situation where if you don't and aren't an exact duplicate copy of that said person, then it's perceived as a failure. I don't like that. I've never been a fan of comparing, oh, that's the next so-and-so, this is the next so-and-so. It's corny to say this. It's been said in promos before. Even Roman Reigns, Mr. Cornball, as a babyface himself, said this to John Cena, that he wants to be the one and only Roman Reigns. In other words, I don't want to be anybody else, right? I want to blaze my own trail. So I don't know if anyone's going to take over his role. If you mean role as in top heel, I don't know. There's no one even close to him right now. That's the problem. I hate to cop out on your answer, Scott, but I'd be basically throwing crap at the wall and seeing what sticks with my answer. Okay, your third question. Jericho and MFF are doing so well, MJF, I assume you mean, are doing so well in AEW with factions. Do you think we need Jon Moxley? Should he start a Shield-type faction? He could enroll Eddie Kingston and maybe Neville and Hangman Page to take on Inner Circle and the Pinnacle. 3-way blood and guts match would be awesome. Thanks, man. Scott in UK. Scott, as always, thank you for your patronage and thank you for the questions. Well, I'm not even going to try to even lie to our audience or you in that I do not watch weekly, every minute of AEW. I catch highlights. I see what's going on. I know generally, I have a co-host, obviously Mimi Burris, who covers AEW very well, and she'd probably be better off to answer that question with my very limited knowledge rather than just brushing you off. I will say that I love MGF. Okay, I'm just kind of slightly cherry picking my answer here. MJF is awesome. I know that Jericho recently turned babyface, which is weird, right? Jericho's never a babyface, almost ever. And I love the fact that he is able to build up this MJF heel who is just I love MJF and on the microphone, he is the true heel's heel. So I'm not even going to try to pretend I know the answer to this, Scott. I'll have to defer to Mimi. For sure. You can send her an email as well, or if you're interested in such things, I can find an answer to you or an opinion on this. But sorry, Scott. Yeah, I know. The host of the WWE podcast, and I don't know the answer to that. All right. Randy is next, and he is also a patron of the show, so let's see what Randy has to say this week. He says, first, I wanted to send a application real quick. Mimi is doing a great job on AEW. I don't get to watch it much, and she tells a great view. I also absolutely love Ashley Mann whenever she's a guest. She's so good at talking wrestling. First of all, yes and yes, Randy. We love them here too. Ashley's awesome. She's been with the show for quite some time. And Mimi, while she's not as seasoned as Ashley, is fitting in so quickly. It's crazy, right? I mean, she certainly knows her stuff. Great to listen to, fun to listen to. I really can't ask for anyone better for both. Both of these girls, women, are just awesome. So I totally agree, Randy. So you say, okay, now did you catch it? Are you kind of, first of all, Randy, are you playing on the botch guy? He does a whole lot of did you catch it stuff. So if you are, then kudos to you. Go check out the botch guy, guys, on YouTube. Just a great channel. Riddle pretty much hinted at a heel turn, and it has great potential. With Randy Orton on his side, I see him like Cody Rhodes back in the day when he was with Randy. Also, Xavier Woods was amazing in the match. He needs to have a singles run. Thoughts? So I think you're onto something with Riddle. And I didn't even really consider this with Riddle, because most people are expecting Randy to be the one to turn on Riddle and play the heel. And I think that's originally what the case was. But now that they've kind of caught fire a little bit. Okay, I'm not saying they're white hot. They've just kind of maybe some burning embers right there, but nothing blazing yet. That maybe they're going to decide to flip-flop the turn and have Riddle do it. You could be right. Your analogy with Cody Rhodes back in the day when he was with Randy, I believe that was in the group that he had called Legacy. You could be right on that. I would just say let's play this out and see how far the wave goes with Randy and Riddle before Vince goes, you know what, we've got bigger plans. They've been kind of muddling around. Let's move them on to something bigger and better. I would just ride this wave. These kind of waves don't come in often. Chemistry doesn't always happen, and I'm good with it. So as far as Xavier Woods having an amazing match, yeah, I alluded to that in my Monday Night Raw review last night. It was so good, and it showed you that he can easily hold a match on his own. He doesn't need a tag partner at this point in his career, but the WWE just will not let go of the New Day team, faction. Well, it's a tag team now because Big E, even though he's still mentally a part of it, which is killing his character on SmackDown, we have just a tag team. They're just a good old-fashioned plain tag team with Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. But I think that, yeah, it did show that Xavier Woods not only can hold his own, but can be really good in the ring. And it showed that a singles run is possible. But again, WWE does not want to break up the New Day because it's a cash cow. And I understand that from a monetary perspective. So I don't think he'll go on a singles run. But I could see, at least there's this, Randy Orton, or rather Xavier Woods having another match as he did this past week. Like, I mean, I could see other singles matches happening for him, even a rematch from this past Monday, but not a defined long-term singles run. Not at this time. Your final question. Second to last question. Did you catch the A&E Ultimate Warrior? I wasn't a big fan, but watching it made me realize more and more that Hogan was basically an ass. It's why Ric Flair is known as the best. He would have a 30-minute match while Hogan barely had a 10-minute match. First of all, I did not catch it yet. I know that they also did Stone Cold Steve Austin, and being the Stone Cold fan that I am, you think that I'd catch it, but here's the problem. I don't have cable. Okay? I have Hulu, I have Netflix, I have HBO Max, and so forth, but I don't have A&E Live, and it doesn't, on my plan, provide that documentary series. So I'll have to kind of dig through the annals of the internet to find it. But yeah, I've heard the same thing about Hogan being an ass. I mean, he was the right guy in the right place at the right time. He is, he's the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to being a technician. I mean, he's on the other end of the universe with that. We know that. That's never been Hogan's thing. But I don't think you need to be a technician to be successful. I mean, Hogan's, Exhibit A, right? So Ric Flair is known as the best. Stone Cold says that Ric Flair is his favorite. My favorite in-ring technician, I mean, Shawn Michaels / Chris Benoit / Eddie Guerrero. Those are my three top technicians. But Hogan's matches didn't last long. But regardless of what was said internally, the guy made a boatload of money and put the industry on the map. So we can hate on him and we can say whatever we want, but the fact remains that he is the guy that put wrestling on the map and made it he became a household name. So All right. Lastly, why in the world are we doing We're doing Kofi versus Drew again. They need the draft sooner than later. Honestly, tired of the same matches. And if Shayna don't kill Reginald, I'm rioting, damn it. Take care, be safe, Randy. Randy, same to you, my friend. As far as Kofi and Drew again, well, we got a screwy finish, right? We got a screwy finish this past Monday, and I wanted a finish. And I applaud Adam, who is it? Adam Pearce, for not just jumping to the typical conclusion, or solution, I should say, of triple threat. He at least is doing this again next week for a clean winner. You don't often see that. So I appreciate that. As far as Reginald, I'm kind of done with him unless they're going to do something else. I don't hate his character. I just don't understand him being the punching bag for the women. It's weird. And, it's kind of, it's strange. I don't know his role anymore. I don't. And him being targeted by Alexa, I think he's just being used to target Shayna in a twisted way. So I think Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss are really the ones who are going to lock it up at some point. So, yeah, the draft is needed, or at least this. Massive trades. Trades can be done. Why are we not doing this? Right? So, okay. Let's get to the other emails, and then we'll, of course, get to those all-important fun voicemails. Let's see. Our first one comes to us from Dennis, as always. Mr. Dennis O'Brien says, "Hi, Matt. I'm emailing you the Thursday after Backlash. So I know it's late, but zombies. Oh, God. Dennis, you're going to kill me, my friend. You're going to kill me. I know they were promoting a movie, but surely there was another way to promote it. It was embarrassing. Yes, there was 100 other ways to promote this, and they chose to actually put simulated zombies, people in makeup, in the ring, and pretending to eat the Miz. I'm just numb to it at this point. Reigns versus Cesaro was outstanding. Agreed. I think Cesaro versus Rollins at Hell in a Cell will be great. Agreed. I mean, how can you possibly have a bad match with those two? Regarding Kofi Kingston, you have always disliked Kofi, or is it his New Day character? Any truth about the Miz being injured? I've heard about the Miz being injured. I believe there is merit to it. Miz has almost never, or if ever, not gotten injured in his career. He's never been injured. And if this is the first time, which I believe there is some credibility to it, then that is significant. But your question about Kofi Kingston, I haven't always disliked Kofi. The Kofi Kingston New Day character is what I don't like, because he's kind of meta. He kind of is trying to be too cool by being cool. It's weird. I don't like his persona. What he did with the WWE Championship was an embarrassment. I understand it was a feel-good moment, but his reign where he just, kept pancakes behind it and, was throwing them to the audience, and he never could get serious in his promos, or if he did, it was very rare. He got beat by Brock Lesnar in how many seconds? 7, 10, 12 seconds, whatever it was, after a 6-month reign, and then says boo next week. The next week says nothing, right? Says Jack, doesn't do anything, and just back to throwing pancakes. And all of a sudden this week, after 2 years nearly, he comes out and says, I never got my rematch. So why now? You didn't care for 2 years. That really shows that you had, this at the top of your list. I just don't like his character at all. I don't like the baby. Something about him gets under my skin as a character. And again, I want to clarify, as a human being, as a man, as a family man, the guy seems like he is, just one of the best guys you'll meet. So I have no problem with him as a human being. I have no problem with him in the ring. He's very good in the ring. We know what you're getting from Kofi Kingston. It's the character that he is a part of the New Day for that is, I just can't stand that character. And also the New Day is just, needs to, I'll say it for the 15th time, needs to kind of break up, right? They won't do it, though. They're not going to do it because it's too much money, guys. Money. All right, our next email comes to us from Josh Sanders. So, Josh, I believe you're new, so let's see what you have to say here. Hi, I've been listening to your podcast for a couple of months now and enjoy listening to it while I work. Finally, had some time to ask you a question with a theory I have. Do you think WWE is struggling so bad because of the cancel culture we live in now that they seem like they have to play it safe, or just drop a storyline if anything offensive can be taken from it? With all the breaking news on anyone who does wrong, I think they are scared to be that edgy and really entertaining. I hope this reached the mailbag in time. Well, Josh, you're successful. It did reach the mailbag in time, obviously. So hope everything's well over there in Kentucky. Okay. Boy, this is a tough answer, and not because I don't have an answer, but rather because it straddles the line of politics, and that's a topic that is extremely volatile today. And you have a lot of people on the far left, on the far right, in the middle. The fact of the matter is cancel culture exists. Okay, if you don't believe cancel culture exists or don't know what it is, basically it is a mob out there that deems anything offensive as something that needs to be erased from society, and that you need to bow to basically their every whim of offensiveness because they cannot manage their own feelings and don't know how to live in a world in which they have opposing views on things, right? Like, for example, Dr. Seuss was cancel culture. And there's so many other examples of this in our society. And so I'll leave that there. I'm trying to tiptoe as as lightly as I can. I'm treading lightly. Hey guys, so I know you've heard me talk about other podcasts on this show and recommended some to you, and many of them have been sponsors of the show, but there's one podcast I do want you to check out. It's so different than everything else you've listened to, and I can guarantee it. And they're only 3 episodes in, and you can already tell that this is going to be a podcast that just skyrockets to the top because it's so well done, yet it's so new. And here's the name of it. The name of this podcast is called Konaverse. It's Konaverse. So that's Konaverse. So basically what Konaverse is they're a conversation experience platform. They're hosted and curated by a global technology leader, and they're all about human stories. And they do talk about how tech brought us together, but it's about the human stories, learning from them, which is the glue of this podcast. So you're definitely going to want to check it out, guys. Their first guest was John West. He's a consultant for Content Stack. Mark Serveas, he is a senior applications architect at Humana. And Derek Dysart, who is a Sitecore/CMS platform consultant and Sitecore MVP. So check them out, guys. I really think that you'll enjoy it. Plus, the intro to their show is awesome. It puts you in like a trance / kind of a relaxed state. I don't know how to explain it. You're just going to have to click the play button. The intro to their show is it's just so good and so relaxing right off the bat, but yet you learn a lot from their show. So go check out Konaverse podcast. It's Konaverse podcast. They're available on Spotify, Libsyn, and Apple Podcasts. So go check them out today.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
So, do I think WWE is aware of this culture? Yes, absolutely. Especially Stephanie McMahon, who's always been more concerned for the last 10 years about building relationships with other companies than actually, building her own company, and more concerned about the soft nature of her company, and rather than, what actually drives fans to the product, which is creating a great product. I think that's kind of been Stephanie's Achilles heel. While she's the chief brand operating officer, she's building the brand. It's about the brand. Let's make a relationship with the Susan G. Komen Foundation or Connor's Cure. And again, I'm not saying that, pro wrestling is more important than cancer or Connor who died from childhood, brain cancer. Of course not. It's tragic. It's awful. That is real life. Pro wrestling is a sandbox. We understand that. So I want to draw that distinction. My point, though, is Stephanie's been so focused on that instead of building her own business and worrying about what everyone else does and how they view the company, that they've lost track of how to, be successful without having to look around. Now, it's also tough because you are a publicly traded company. So by living in a vacuum, in a bubble, that's also problematic, because then you could be a victim of this cancel culture mob that will come after you at the slightest hint of offensibility. And don't worry, if they aren't offended, they will be offended on behalf of another group, racial group, religious group, whatever, right? Like, you'll find people who are offended on behalf of another group. That's not even a thing. That's how you know that it is just, it's a false offense. And it's really nothing more. When people claim victimhood, it's nothing more than a power grab and trying to use their own victimhood as a club for whatever product, company, individual that they're trying to attack. They're using their own perceived victimhood, because the higher you are in the victimhood ladder, the more power you have, right? So it is a very victim-centered culture right now, and part of that is the cancel culture, right? So, oh boy, see how hard it is to not talk politics. You bring up a very interesting question, though, Josh. I've already kind of dipped my toe in a very dangerous pool. And so they are, to answer your question, they have to play it safe. There is no company, there is no individual that is safe from the cancel culture until someone stands up and says, F you, right? Until someone says, dude, I don't care if you don't like what I do or say or produce. I'm not going to apologize for what I produce. Unless it's, if it's something harmful, like actually harmful to people or children, right? That's different. I'm talking about people's feelings, right? We have put people's feelings above everything else, or at least the companies and individuals have allowed people's feelings to run everything. And again, it's a power grab. I think it's dangerous, but WWE right now probably does not want to take a stand. And it's going to be interesting to see this. Mark my words here on the WWE podcast. I don't think I've ever said this before. Mark my words. In the next 2 to 5 years, we will have a transgender world champion. I'm being serious. Or at least one of the top tier belts, US, Intercontinental, or WWE or Universal, one of those top 4 belts. And I'm not swaying or tipping my hat into what I think about that. That's a whole nother topic that's extremely dangerous to talk about. So I'm going to leave it there, but I'm telling you right now that is going to be something that will creep up and eventually make its way into WWE. I believe there is a transgender pro wrestler. Somebody, I think, told me about this one time, but I'm talking about as champion, not just kind of like an entry level NXT, trainee. I'm talking about like somebody that's prominently in a position of, a championship title holder. So I'll leave that to your own opinions, your own thoughts. I'm not going to comment on that. Whether I like it, don't like it, disagree, agree, doesn't matter, because I'm not going to put myself in that position. I'm just saying that is where we're headed right now. For better or worse, that is where we're headed. So I've really dug deep in here because it's something that is, it's hard to ignore in our culture, and eventually wrestling will be absorbed into this. You can see it coming a mile away. So, okay, let's see. With all the breaking news on anyone who does wrong. Oh, okay, you already read that. I already answered your question, Josh. I thought you had 2 parts. Thank you, Josh Sanders from Kentucky. Very, very dangerous topic, my friend. Okay, it is now time to dive into. Oh, I know who this is. This is Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, who's cutting a promo right off the top. And he says, "Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody." Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the WWE Podcast proudly brings to you the greatest WWE mailbag show in the world. The Road Dogg, Matt, the badass Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, the New Age Outlaws. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm sure I nailed it, right? Like I did it exactly as Road Dogg Jesse James would have done it, right? I mean, does anybody disagree with me? I didn't think so. Of course, that was a complete butchery of that promo. But, okay, you start off by saying, acknowledge him. Roman is on fire, but I want to tell the whole WWE universe there should be no bloodline faction. Why would or should a heel give us what we want? I'm personally tired of hearing bloodline. It's not about family. It's about Roman. It's not about the Usos becoming tag team champions. It's about the head of the table, the tribal chief, the WWE Universal Champion. Let us not forget that. I don't want the Hurt Business 2.0, nor do I want Roman to lose heat. Yes, I want Jimmy to fall in line, but he should be like Jay and help Roman stay on top. I'm totally fine with Jay and Jimmy being singles competitors. Maybe Jay could be IC champion. What do you think? So, could Jay be IC champion? Yes, he could. And I could see that happening. I wouldn't put that out of his realm of possibility. Jey Uso has, I think, easily elevated himself to that level, if not higher than that. Jey Uso has had a hell of a year with Roman Reigns. But I got to say, my friend, it's not about giving the fans what they want. I don't think naming a trio is giving the fans what they want. I think it's just smart to name a group. I mean, why would you not want to name a group the Bloodline? First of all, it's an awesome name. Awesome. It could be heel or face. Plus marketing. Why would you not want to, make T-shirts on this and sell merchandise? I know heels don't usually make more than the baby faces. Like, I know the counterparts are different, but money is still there on the table. It's ready to be made if they just name the group, create the T-shirts. And I understand what you're saying. It is about Roman Reigns, but it's about, it's about the men who are trying to keep him on top as well. And he talks about family all the time. Roman Reigns is the one who talks about family and how, I'm here because I'm trying to put food on my family's table, and we are all family. Roman does mention a lot about family. I understand it's in a self-serving way, but he still does on a weekly basis. So I don't think it's the Hurt Business 2.0. The connection with these three is actually via real blood. Like, they are really related in real life. It's not just throwing a bunch of guys together that had nothing else going on, like the Hurt Business, and they caught lightning in a bottle. This is actually a long-standing group that has history. So, okay. The almighty WWE Champion Bobby Lashley is having a great run. MVP just adds so much to Bobby. So I want to take this time to eat crow. I know I was livid when they broke up the Hurt Business, but honestly, I think Vinnie Mac was right. Bobby Lashley looks unstoppable. MVP is a manager of the year. They don't need Cedric or Shelton at all. So shout out to Vinnie Mac. I honestly feel bad for Cedric and Shelton, but somebody has to be the Marty Jannetty, I guess. Also with the Bloodline, on SmackDown, both champion gimmicks would have been similar. How do you feel about the Hurt Business breaking up now that time has passed by? So I'll answer your last question first. First of all, I do feel bad for Cedric and Shelton. They got relegated to absolute obscurity. I don't think they needed to be relegated to absolute obscurity. I'm okay with the Hurt Business the way that they are currently structured now. I'm not looking at this going, oh man, I wish Shelton and Cedric were back with Bobby. It was so great. I don't feel that. I'm not going to lie to you that I feel that. I don't. But I also don't think that they needed to completely bury both guys on the way down. They could have at least kept them relevant in the tag team division, but they didn't even want to keep them together. I think that's the problem I have. But was Vinnie Mac right? I mean, yeah, but would we have also been right? Probably, right? Just because it seems to have worked out doesn't mean there wasn't two solutions to this. Why wouldn't it have still worked just fine with both Cedric and Shelton there? You know, I think it still would have worked. Just because, again, that solution was fine. How do we know that what fans are complaining about wouldn't have been better? We don't. I mean, I guess you could apply that logic to any story. But I see what you're saying. I love how he's like, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, I gotta say, you do have a lot of fans within this show that listen to hear what you have to say. You do. You have a fan base in and of yourself on this show. And I think it's because you come up with these observations that no one else does. You don't always go, and oftentimes don't go with the common theme, the common thought process. And that's good. I think that's a big reason why so many people love hearing what you have to say. And so I just wanted to point that out. Okay, let's keep going here in your email. I hope it's not Bobby versus Drew at Hell in a Cell. Me too, my buddy, my friend. I hope it's not. I have a feeling that if it's the match, then they will put the belt back on Drew. I hope not. I really do. I hope we get a few more months of the Almighty Era at the minimum. At the very minimum. And does it last until SummerSlam? I mean, that's actually something to think about. How about Riddle's RKO? Looked great. I was shocked. It did look good, but it's not a Randy RKO. So I guess that's not fair. But it did look good for the fact that he's never done it on live TV. I agree. But I was fine. I think it's cool that he used Randy's signature move. I listened to your weekend review show, and I would love to do another show with you. Just let me know. Shout out to the guy who emailed Randy. I didn't know MVP was hurt. Okay, well, there you go. I didn't read down that far. We'll schedule some time, buddy, to come on the show. I know you did one with me several months ago, and for sure we'll get you back on. People love to hear from you. Best dress goes to Seth freaking Rollins. I don't know why people say he looks crazy. His fashion is great. True definition of drip. Oh, God. I don't know the analogy. DRIP is in quotes. I'm trying to put together what DRIP stands for. Is it some kind of like, it's something the kids are saying today? And here's another thing the kids are saying today that I don't understand what the hell it means. Simp? What is it to mean to simp? SIMP. Does that mean you're like, you got the hots for somebody, right? Like you're interested in somebody, you're attracted to somebody. You want to like, I don't know. I mean, I know it's been used in kind of a sexual way. So maybe somebody can explain to me what this is. TikTok is just sucking up part of my life sometimes. And I look at these and I'm like, what are these terminologies that Gen Z is coming up with? I'm a millennial, so I maybe am out of this loop now that the lingo is passed me by. But I don't know. I don't know what a DRIP is, a drip. Maybe somebody can explain. Somebody out there is laughing right now at me, and I don't know what it means. Lastly, to everybody who trashed the zombie lumberjack match, remember most of you like a woman wrestler who all she does is play on a swing and talk to a doll. Took and ruined another wrestler's gimmick. Me and my daughter loved the match. That's all I got this week, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. See, these are the observations that people love you for. And you turn the common theme on its head. Right. We do look at, who is it? Alexa Bliss. Couldn't think of her. On a swing, and she's talking to a doll. But we look at supernatural crap all the time. Bray Wyatt, for God's sakes. Undertaker. Among a Kane. There have been many supernatural characters in WWE that are just, it's unbelievable to look at. But zombies is something that is, it's not interesting. It's overused in movies. It's, to me, completely taking you out of the moment because they're not actually a wrestling character. See, that's the thing. They're not a wrestling character. They're all extras that we're supposed to believe are real zombies. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's not as if they brought somebody in as a zombie, which I think would be worse. But it's just, I don't know. I hear what you're saying. And yes, one's supernatural. The other one is just a promotion for a movie, which also makes it really bad. I mean, to me, there's just nothing good about that. But I love the alternate perspective because that's what you do. So, all right, we'll definitely be getting in touch for a co-show in the near future. So everybody stay tuned for that. Okay, let's see here. I think that wraps up our emails for the day, and that means we get to start diving into the all-important voicemails. So let's see who our first voicemail is from.
Hey Matt, this is Jeff from the Philippines. So what I noticed on this past Monday on Raw is that how the way the commentary and even Adam Pearce said, for example, when they were trying to make a match official at the Hell in a Cell, they were saying that it would be at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, trying to emphasize that the word pay-per-view. They always said that it would be at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And I think that's a problem because when the name of the show revolves around a stipulation, just like that, Hell in a Cell, there might be a misconception about what would be the match. For example, they advertise Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte at Hell in a Cell. There might be a misconception since that's the name of the pay-per-view. The viewers might misunderstood if it would be a match that is inside the structure or it would be just a standard one-on-one match. And on SmackDown with Aleister Black's return, his eyes, I think that was his right eye. I think this is something that I saw on Twitter that WWE is trying to sell the injury to his eye. Remember when Buddy Murphy injured Aleister Black's eye last year by pushing it to the corner of the steel steps when they were still doing that eye for an eye thing with Rey Mysterio. And I just want to say that Raw is just a bunch of rematches, and sometimes I'm having doubts if I'm still going to watch the show because it's just a bunch of rematch from last week and the other week before, and we're not going to get a clean finish. What I mean with a clean finish is that with a finisher and then goes for the pinfall, not with a roll up or something. And yeah, that's all. Stay safe. Bye.
Hey there, Jeff. Hope all is well over there in the Philippines, and you bring a lot to the table this week. A lot to dive into, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. That said, your point about the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, how it's built around a stipulation, first and foremost, that has been an issue that I've had for years now, that they create the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view itself. It should not be a pay-per-view. I have said this many times. Hell in a Cell should be reserved for those programs, those special feuds that can only be resolved inside of that structure. Not every program is deserving of the Cell, of course. But WWE builds it into their schedule and says, well, whatever programs are going on at this time, we'll put 2 of them inside the Cell. It's the exact opposite. The exact opposite is true. The exact opposite is what kept the Cell special. And now they are basically bastardizing the Cell as just a gimmick pay-per-view. That's what they've done. I would have just changed out the pay-per-views for Extreme Rules and Hell in a Cell and done Extreme Rules a month early or 2 months early. Don't they usually do it in July? I think usually July is the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. And instead they put Hell in a Cell, which again shows you how they feel about the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And to that point, and your point about how it's confusing when, people talk about, I'm going to face you at Hell in a Cell, right? Instead of inside the cell. And I think that needs to be clarified when people are speaking about the pay-per-view, because it's a stipulation named pay-per-view. They need to specify, I want you inside Hell in a Cell, instead of I'm going to fight you at Hell in a Cell. That little change of at or in, that little verbiage makes all the difference. And I agree. I totally agree with you on that. And the clean finishes on Raw, I mean, it's talk about beating a horse that's buried. I mean, it's the old cliche of beating a dead horse. It is just a constant issue with WWE right now, where they just cannot or don't want to have clean finishes for matches because of their lack of confidence in their own booking. I think that's exactly what it comes down to. They don't have the confidence to book someone in a match to win clean or lose clean, for fear that they may go too far up, too far down, or if they go, too far up, then, maybe they're not ready to handle it, or maybe it'll damage the other guys on the way down or on the way up. And we don't want that. We want a level playing field where, we feel like anyone could beat anyone at any given time. I despise that mindset where these finishes are traded back and forth. Look at Asuka last week or Asuka and Charlotte last week and Asuka and Charlotte this week. They both traded wins. Now, of course, that's a 2-week span, not a big sample size, but more often than not, there's a lot of 50-50 booking. And I don't want to feel like everyone can take everyone to the limit and everyone can beat anybody at any time. It doesn't do anybody any favors, because it doesn't stack the roster vertically. It stacks it horizontally. And it essentially elevates no one when you do that. And it creates indifference. And the commentary thing, you're right. But I wanted to mention, as you said the word commentary, I completely missed the fact that Adnan Virk has been removed from Monday Night Raw after, a month, 2 months, whatever it's been. And, I have to say, I didn't despise Adnan Virk. I know a lot of people thought he was not good on commentary. I actually thought he was fine. Coming from MLB to WWE, it's a big difference, right? I mean, MLB, you're reading off stats. There's no storyline to follow. You just have to, know the ins and outs of what the players have done, who their matchups are next. I mean, there's a whole stat sheet in front of you. Whereas in WWE, it's all about telling stories. And I didn't find any issues with his commentary, especially being so new to the product. So I was a bit surprised when they said that they had mutually split ways. And my thought when they said mutually is that Adnan Virk didn't want to be screamed at in his headset to tell stories by Vince McMahon throughout the entire show. And I think that probably had a big part in it. I think that this job was much different than he thought it was going to be. And coming from MLB, where no one's yelling in your ear and you just commentate what's going on, and you could kind of say what you want and not have an overlord, looking down at you in a microscope, that probably had a lot to do with it, is my guess. So I didn't dislike him. And it's kind of a revolving door on Monday Night Raw right now. Tom Phillips gone, or Michael Cole left, of course, going to SmackDown. Tom Phillips took over, Adnan Virk. And I wouldn't mind just keeping Corey Graves and Byron Saxton on commentary by themselves. I don't mind a 2-man booth. In fact, I prefer it. I don't need 3. 3 is too much. You need color, and you need a play-by-play. End of story. It doesn't need to get more complicated. 3 is a crowd. 2 is easier to follow. It's much easier to listen to. It makes the product a little bit more palatable when you're watching, rather than 3 voices. It's a little much. So thank you, Jeff, for your insight into those few topics. So I hope to hear from you next week. All right, let's keep the train rolling with the voicemails.
Hello, Matt. This is Sharon from Israel. I just did a great thing. I saw NXT immediately after I saw Raw. It was a great thing, and so much recommended to you to do this as well. Because Raw in the last weeks, it is so bad. I mean, the last show ended with the Women's Tag Team Championship match, and Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax and Reginald. I mean, Reginald was the last thing that I saw on Raw. Can you understand that? It's like something went really, really, really wrong with the show. I don't know who was writing for it. I don't know who was doing that work, and so bad. And the stories, they are not consistent. I mean, Drew McIntyre against Kofi Kingston, this is just a bad pairing. Really? There are two baby faces, and there are two people that I just can't see on my screen anymore. I'm sorry, but Drew McIntyre just became something that I can't see on my screen. Really, for really, just all the time on a championship. All the time. And then, if there is somebody supposed to replace him, freaking Kofi Kingston. I mean, I like Kofi Kingston, but he's not a championship man. He's like good, he's a veteran, but he's too much funny and too much of a clown, and he's just not a championship material. Yeah. So, anyway, next week we have another thing of this great thing of Drew McIntyre versus Kofi Kingston, and I was so much not expecting to this. Anyway, after I saw NXT, I realized this is such a better show. Yeah, I know you're gonna say they're not gonna see it, but I really recommend it to see what they are doing in those chapters. I mean, there's the thing that the $1 Million Man having a feud with Cameron Grimes, and you see how much they're investing so much of a little feud, and it is so nice to see someone for the past coming for the aid for a young superstar like Cameron Grimes. So yeah, and I don't think there is something like that in Raw or SmackDown, that someone from the past, a big legend, came and took care about a young superstar like Cameron Grimes or anyone else. It's great to see this. Yeah, that's it, I think. One more thing I wanted to say, it's that I don't know the difference anymore between heel and face. I mean, so became close. I mean, superstars are just acting like heel and face. I really think that they have a bad acting ability. They just don't know how to act. They don't know what heel and face should do. I really recommend superstars that they will do like acting classes, something professional, because right now heels and face, they are just acting the same. Yeah, okay, that's it. See you next time. Bye.
Hey there, Sharon. Hope you're doing well, and stay safe. It sounds like you're walking down a street or something. But so Reginald, the fact that he is our lasting image on Raw is pretty telling. At the same time, it wasn't really about him. I'm okay with them highlighting and spotlighting the Raw Women's Championship at times, the Women's Tag Team Championship, and the Tag Team Championships on both genders at all. I mean, like, so it's nice that they spotlighted that on the main event. And yes, he was the lasting image, but it was really about Alexa Bliss, because that is who is targeting Reginald / I would assume Shayna Baszler. So it, while it was Reginald, we have to look a little deeper and realize who's behind it, and that's Alexa Bliss using Kane's pyro. But yeah, NXT is just a better show. I mean, it's not that I don't know what's going on. I just, as you know, and all our listeners know, I don't watch it regularly just because it's a time factor. So, but it is a better show. Why? Well, number one, it's shorter. Number two, the talent is really good. Number three, the storylines are easy to follow. It's not, it's not wrapped up in the entertainment piece and forget about the wrestling. And I think that's also what's great is it kind of brings pro wrestling back to its roots. And we watch programs that are easy to follow, characters that are easier to understand, and it's not just convoluted in Vince McMahon's idea of what entertainment is. So that is it's a good point, and NXT is a better show. Unfortunately, the ratings don't line up with the fact that it's a better show because it's not spotlighted on a large network like Fox or something like that, and it doesn't get the attention I think it deserves at times. So yes, absolutely. So I almost called you Reginald. Jeez, Sharon, thank you for your commentary, and I look forward to your message next week. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll get to that next voicemail. Hey guys, so I know you've heard me talk about other podcasts on this show and recommended some to you, and many of them have been sponsors of the show, but there's one podcast I do want you to check out. It's so different than everything else you've listened to, and I can guarantee it. And they're only 3 episodes in, and you can already tell that this is going to be a podcast that just skyrockets to the top because it's so well done, yet it's so new. And here's the name of it. The name of this podcast is called Konaverse. It's Konaverse. So that's Konaverse. So basically what Konaverse is they're a conversation experience platform. They're hosted and curated by a global technology leader, and they're all about human stories. And they do talk about how tech brought us together, but it's about the human stories, learning from them, which is the glue of this podcast. So you're definitely going to want to check it out, guys. Their first guest was John West. He's a consultant for Content Stack. Mark Serveas, he is a senior applications architect at Humana. And Derek Dysart, who is a Sitecore/CMS platform consultant and Sitecore MVP. So check them out, guys. I really think that you'll enjoy it. Plus, the intro to their show is awesome. It puts you in like a trance / kind of a relaxed state. I don't know how to explain it. You're just going to have to click the play button. The intro to their show is it's just so good and so relaxing right off the bat, but yet you learn a lot from their show. So go check out Konaverse Podcast. It's Konaverse Podcast. They're available on Spotify, Libsyn, and Apple Podcasts. So go check them out today.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Hey, what's going on? This is Trey from Maryland. I have 2 quick questions for you. Now that Backlash was behind us, and Hell in a Cell is the next pay-per-view, it looked like SmackDown, to me, had already planted the seeds for at least 2 cell matches. Obviously, one of them looks like it's going to be Cesaro and Seth Rollins. But my question is, do you think the other cell match is probably going to, do you think it's going to be Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso for the Universal title? And it's going to be a I Quit match. Because remember when Jimmy Uso did his promo in front of him, and he said if it was him, he would never utter the words I quit. So by him saying that, that's telling me that they're probably going to fight in the cell in the I Quit match for the title. And if he ends up losing, he has to fall in line with his brother. And my second question is, for Raw, who do you think Alexa Bliss is targeting? I mean, obviously, it looks like, so far, it looks like it's Nia Jax. Because, Alexa had already interfered in their matches, their tag team title match, when it cost them the match when Shayna Baszler had some freak knee injury. I think Alexa put a spell on her, really, but, and I guess it was a couple weeks later. Matter of fact, it was this past last Monday, and they was involved in the title match, and Reginald got burned in the face. So it looks like she's targeting Nia Jax to me. Also, by her saying, Lily's favorite color is red, the other option could be Sonya Deville. I don't know if Alexa Bliss and Sonya Deville, I don't think they had history or anything. But just want your thoughts.
Hey, Trent. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for calling in. So, okay, you have a lot there. I'll say this. As far as Hell in a Cell goes, it does look like Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso are on a collision course, probably for an I Quit match. I think that logic is sound. I think it makes sense because he will follow the same path as Jey Uso and eventually fall in line. I don't think the plan is to build Jimmy Uso into this main event star that could potentially topple Roman Reigns. That's not the end game here. The end game is always about Roman Reigns, as it should be right now. And I think that he'll follow the same path as Jey and eventually tap out via the guillotine to Roman Reigns, and he'll fall in line. And the bloodline will be as strong as ever. I know it's not officially the name. I'm calling it the bloodline. I know some people don't like that, i.e. I'm Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, but it's an awesome name. There's really no way around it. So that's what I think. And as far as Cesaro and Seth Rollins, I think they are deserving of the cell in some respects. I don't want two SmackDown matches having the Hell in a Cell stipulation, though. I think you have to have one from Raw, one from SmackDown, and that's probably the way they'll play it. And I think Seth Rollins and Cesaro have a much longer standing feud that's deserving of the cell than actually Jimmy and Roman, because Jimmy and Roman just have a little tension. It's not really a blood feud, no pun intended, right now. It's not. Seth Rollins and Cesaro are. So I hope that it's Raw or Cesaro and Seth from SmackDown who get the stipulation from Hell in a Cell. Now, your question about the women and if Lily is targeting Nia Jax, maybe. I still think it's Shayna Baszler based on what happened this past week on Raw. I don't think Sonya Deville is it. And actually, we haven't heard anything about the color red since she made that quick passing comment a few weeks ago. So things could have changed. I don't know if that is something that is still a clue we should be looking at, because they haven't reiterated it at all. And it may not actually end up being anything to do with red at all, and it could go away. So we'll have to see if that's actually something that holds on or doesn't and fades away. So thank you so much, Trent. I thank you for your call, and let's keep things going.
Hey, it's Kyle from Baltimore, Maryland. Crazy to see that in the women's division. I feel like they were hyping up for the longest time for years the four horsewomen: Sasha, Becky, Charlotte, and Bayley. And with Bayley tonight, I thought she was the biggest star than Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair is acting exactly like Sasha Banks. I felt that way when she announced that she was going to face Sasha at WrestleMania. I always felt that way when she debuted on SmackDown. And then the way they both are exactly the same, Sasha and Bianca. And people are liking Bianca a lot better. Bianca's so much better than Sasha, but they're both in the same character. But I just think Bianca is Sasha 2.0 in a lot of ways, and that's not fair to Bianca. She should be her own character and not act like Sasha Banks. But what do you feel about that Sasha and Bianca are exactly the same, and there's no difference between what Sasha's doing and what Bianca's doing. She calls herself the EST. That should be an arrogant thing to say. So, but what do you think about that? But that's it. Thanks for the call. Bye.
Hey, Kyle. Good observation. There are similarities between Sasha and Bianca, no doubt. The arrogance and demeanor are, I would assume, what you're referencing. I mean, their gimmicks aren't exactly the same. How Bianca is, she calls herself the EST. That's the most arrogant thing you can ever call yourself, by the way, and yet she's a babyface. Sasha is the boss, or at least as Michael Cole incessantly says, it's boss time. I think he should be, fired the next time he says that. I don't know. Boss time is just it's the equivalent of big dog. Here comes the big dog when Roman Reigns was the big dog. A nickname he never earned, by the way. So, I see what you're saying in similarities and demeanor, and at the same time, their stories are different and their in-ring styles are much different. Where Bianca is, I think, much more athletic and clearly stronger than Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks, in her own right, is very good in the ring. We all know how good she is. Ring psychology, timing, she's got really everything. She's a polished performer from top to bottom. Whereas Sasha Banks or Bianca Belair is a little greener, yet doesn't show it, or they protect that at times. And, beyond the physical differences, I mean, their bodies are much different. How they look are much different. Their skin tones, of course. But I see what you're saying in the arrogance level. At the same time, Bianca Belair is arrogant when she needs to be and turns it on when she needs to, when provoked. Whereas Sasha Banks, since she's a heel, although we haven't seen her since WrestleMania, and maybe she'll be brought back as a babyface. I hope not. Sasha Banks is like right from the get-go arrogant. She doesn't turn it off. Whereas Bianca Belair is kind of nice and likable, and then when she's provoked, then she goes, girl, and starts the whole arrogance, but in a kind of likable way. It's interesting, right? So I see what you're saying, but those are my thoughts on Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks similarities. So, okay, keep the train going here.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. I am calling in on a Tuesday evening, and first and foremost, I want to talk about Raw. Now, we all are getting sick and tired of seeing Drew McIntyre back at it again in the WWE title picture over and over and over with him and Bobby Lashley. But now it's time for a change. It's time for him to move on, to go to a different program, to go into a different storyline. And let's get Drew McIntyre involved in something that's not in the WWE title picture. And then you have last night on Raw, you have none other than Kofi Kingston saying, "Oh, remember me? I want my rematch for the WWE title." Oh yeah, that's right. He's actually right about that. When he lost to Brock Lesnar in like 9 seconds on that episode of SmackDown 2 years ago. So now you have Drew McIntyre, you have Kofi Kingston, and the winner is going to face Bobby Lashley in Hell in a Cell? Are you kidding me? Where is the other guys that they could have put into this title picture against Bobby Lashley? But I digress. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest news that hit today as of Tuesday, May 25th, and that is none other than Aiden Burke, our beloved announcer on the WWE Raw show. Aiden Burke has been released. Hallelujah! Now that's what I'm talking about. Finally, we can get rid of this guy. The experiment of having Aiden Burke on the announce team goes to show that it didn't work. So, I want to see the announce team stick to two guys, Corey Graves and Brian Sexton. Another suggestion, probably I could have maybe MVP and Corey Graves as the announce team. So, that's all I got right now, and I will talk to you once again.
Mr. DJ Kuzmo, it would not be a mailbag without you. It would not be complete. You're part of a complete breakfast, so to speak, right? So thank you for calling in, and your energy is much appreciated. So, I don't know what else to say without re-saying what you said as far as the whole title picture goes, because apparently no one else cares about the title picture except for Drew McIntyre, and now Kofi Kingston out of nowhere 2 years later goes, "Oh, that's right, I was WWE champion, I never got my rematch," which shows you the importance of the championship to him, that he just now is realizing. I mean, was he in a time capsule for 2 years and goes, "Oh, that's right, give me the title, I need my rematch, I'm owed my rematch." It's ridiculous, and there's no one else that they can elevate to this level. Even if they don't, and the purpose is not to drop the belt to that person, it still helps build new talent, new stars, new matchups. I am a Drew McIntyre fan, respect the guy, but I'm so done with him in the title picture. I don't want him being champion for a while. I want him out of the title picture. It has been a year and a half of him just incessantly chasing it. It's mind numbing. And I think the fans would start to turn on it, and they will if he is still chasing it in July. I can't wait. The fans coming back is the biggest deal WWE's had in a couple of years now. So that is that. As far as Adnan Virk, yeah, I mean, look, I really didn't dislike him as a lot of you did. I thought he was okay. I thought he fit in quicker than most do when they're thrown into that role without having prior experience as a wrestling commentator. So I didn't hate him like the rest of you. I kind of felt neutral about him. I thought he was okay. But here's the thing. WWE has already hired a third person. I don't think it's needed. I don't want 3 people. I want 2. Corey Graves and Byron are just fine together. I think they play off each other nicely. 2 is a much more, it's an easier listen than 3 voices in my ear. And now they have gone and hired a third because apparently they need 3, which is stupid to me. It's okay. But they hired Jimmy Smith, who is a former UFC and Bellator commentator. So he's going to be Jimmy Smith that is going to be taking Adnan's place. So I'd never heard this guy. I don't know how good he is. Honestly, I don't want a third person. So the third person, whoever it was, unless it was Jim Ross returning, I really have no use for. I don't want 3. It's almost irregardless of who you're bringing in to fill that place. 3 is just too much. So, all right, Mr. DJ, appreciate your commentary, and I hope to call or hear you call in next week. So thank you, and let's keep it going.
Hey Matt, it's Kyle from New York. So I have 2 questions. One of them is about SmackDown. If you I don't know if you heard the rumor. Also, by the way, the thing last week that you said about Bray Wyatt, I heard about that too. All I'll say to that is get well soon, man. Hopefully the Fiend will be, hopefully they'll find a way to make the Fiend good again, you know, and repair that damage they did on him. Anyway, my first question is, well, first of all, I don't know if you heard or saw the rumors about how, like, the first SmackDown back with fans, there was like an advertisement for it, and it showed Edge and Sasha Banks on it. So I've heard people saying now that maybe those 2 will return on that show, like with John Cena, like along with John Cena, they'll return. I think it's possible. Definitely possible. Also, I know you don't. This is the second question. I know you don't watch NXT, but you watch the highlights and the results and stuff. And actually, I have 3 questions actually tonight. I just still have a second one for NXT. So I have 2 for NXT. One, if you've been seeing the highlights of NXT and stuff, if you haven't checked out the new factory net Hit Row, the leader with Isaiah Swerve, they got potential. Like, they could be the future of NXT. That's all I'm going to say about them. What do you think about them? The first question is, what do you think? Do you think Sasha and Edge will be back in that SmackDown episode? And also, what do you think about Hit Row? My third question is, spoiler alert for anyone who's listening to this right now on the Mailbag episode, but spoiler alert, Karrion Kross retained the NXT title in the title rematch against Finn Balor on NXT. And it was a really, really good match, and it seemed like it was Finn Balor's final NXT match, maybe. So, do you think Finn Balor could be coming up to Raw or SmackDown soon now? And if you think he is, which show do you think he's going to come back to, Raw or SmackDown? And yeah, that's all I can really think of this week. So as always, thanks. I'll talk to you next week.
Hey Kyle, so I think you are exactly right about Edge and Sasha Banks for the first live show back with fans on July 19th, whatever it is, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, whatever that date is for SmackDown. They are looking at this as an all hands on deck situation. I think they want this to be as big as possible. It'll be, I think, pay-per-view quality in terms of star power. And in some ways, it may have more star power on it than WrestleMania. I think it's possible. And if I were them, I would, because this is a huge, huge deal to have fans back. It's a big, really, you can't underscore how big of a deal this is. So definitely they will probably have Edge and Sasha Banks and John Cena and maybe even more than that. I know The Rock has been rumored. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's going to be star-studded, as it should be. Same with Raw. So beyond that, I don't really know enough about Hit Row to give you an answer that would be intelligent. Let's leave it there. I know who they are. I know what they look like. I've seen one or two matches. I can't give you that answer because I don't know enough of their body of work. However, your third question about Karrion Kross and Finn Balor, and I think Finn Balor is on his way back to the main roster. He has been vocal actually about wanting to come back. I think the pit stop of him going to NXT was the best thing for his career. And actually, I think that should be a template for other stars moving forward when they start to feel, maybe that the main roster doesn't have much for them. They're spinning their wheels. Why not bring back some big star power to NXT like a Kevin Owens? Kevin Owens has been vocal about going back. I think other stars could benefit from it too. It would also send the message to fans that, hey, this is not just a one-way street, that this could be a two-way street where it's not just always NXT feeding Raw or SmackDown, but perhaps NXT is being fed by Raw and SmackDown at times. I think that would send the message too, that this is not just a feeding ground. So, I think we will see Finn Balor at some point in 2021 on the main roster again. So, thanks, Kyle, and let's keep it going.
Oh, you didn't know? Hey, I'm not going to do the whole thing. Did you get the picture? How y'all doing? How you doing, Matt? Hey, it's been a while since I called in, so I thought I'd call in and say what's up to everybody. Obviously, I wrote an email, so I'm going to make this very brief for everybody. I just got one question. Where are the babyface? I mean, Raw and SmackDown both have a babyface problem. I mean, Raw does have the top babyface in Drew McIntyre, but SmackDown is lacking a true top babyface, in my opinion. I know they're trying to build people, but that's not going so well either. And then Raw, they have Drew McIntyre, who's the top, but they don't have any secondaries. I mean, they're trying to rebuild Kofi, but who really wants to see Kofi Mania 2? Not me. But I really feel like, that's a big aspect that WWE should really work on. There's too many heels, in which all the heels are doing a great job, respectively. But I feel like it's not enough baby faces, overrun by heels, so that's making it hard for heel champions to have anybody to chase or multiple people to chase to beat them. So I really think they need to work on that. And lastly, I know everybody is giving Rhea Ripley a hard time about her championship reign. I personally like her championship reign. I think she's doing a great job. If you ask me, she's doing better than I. I mean, she's champion. You know who the champion is. It is relevant. She's out there, doing the best she can. I think Rhea would have and could have been one of the top heels in the women's division if Charlotte Flair didn't come back after WrestleMania. So I really think they was going with Rhea being a monster heel, but Charlotte came back, and as you know, last minute booking, and so now Charlotte's the top heel. But I really like Rhea's champ. I'm pretty sure they're going to put the belt back on Charlotte, but I do like Rhea's champion. I think she's doing a good job. That's all I got. Hope everybody has a great rest of their week. I'll talk to you later.
Well, there he is. The prodigal son returns to the WWE podcast in audio form. Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, it's good to hear your voice, and I hope to have you on the show soon. Well, let me say this. I agree with you, and I know that you have a lot of controversial or opposing opinions on several things, but, you're not wrong about the babyface problem. I brought this up, too. You have Drew McIntyre on Raw, and then where's the close second? It's a cliff of a drop-off to number 2. And like you said, they're building up Kofi. They're trying to generate a organic movement, which is an oxymoron in and of itself. You can't create Kofi Mania 2. Kofi Mania was created out of an organic movement for Kofi Kingston at the Elimination Chamber a couple of years ago. And giving Kofi a chance, he was the replacement for Mustafa Ali. We know the story, the injury. And in other words, creating an organic movement, it negates itself. That statement negates itself. An organic movement is by definition not created. It's not contrived. It's not developed. It just happens. So the fact that they're trying to generate this again is going to fail because you're immediately going against what inorganic movement is. And it shows the massive lack of babyface depth, like you said. Massive. I mean, they have, you talk about the number of heels versus babyfaces. It may not even be in terms of numbers that much different. Like, in other words, in a perfect world, of course, it'd be 50-50, so that everyone has someone to work with. But it's the star power of the baby faces, not necessarily the number of baby faces that they have a problem with. It's always about star power, always will be, about really any sport, not just wrestling. So that is a huge problem. Big, right? And Drew McIntyre, people are tired of. And they have nowhere else to go, which shows you they have nowhere else to go since Drew's been chasing or holding that belt for 18 months. They got a big, big problem on their hands with baby faces. And Cesaro, they're trying to build on SmackDown. I respect that. I think that they're doing a decent job. I think Cesaro has potential, but I mean, his mic skills have never been there. His promo abilities have never really been there. He's okay. He's not tater tot bad, but he's bland on the mic. In ring, he's a beast, and that's where he lives. That's where he makes his money, is in the ring. And I don't know how long that WWE can use that as their ground to build on Cesaro as the next massive star. Now, your comments about Rhea Ripley are interesting. You think that she's doing a decent job, a good job, as you said. I would guess preface that by saying, well, yes, compared to Asuka's run, that set the bar incredibly low, right? Of course, compared to Asuka, anyone has had a better run than Asuka did because she was off TV. She wasn't featured on pay-per-views for 6 to 8 months. She was forgotten about. Nobody challenged her championship, or even talked about wanting to challenge for her championship. It was an embarrassment, and there's no excuse for it. So, of course, when you put the belt on anyone else, it automatically feels better because that stigma of her terrible run goes away. But even if they're on TV on a regular basis, as they should be, it immediately feels like, wow, this is so much better. Well, yeah, because the bar was set so crazily low that almost any other way to present a champion is better. So I'm trying to compare it to the norm of how they present women's champion and champions in general. So that's the standard I'm using. So, but of course, if you want to look at it compared to Asuka, yeah, she's doing a good job, right? She's doing a good job. So, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, I appreciate your feedback. Always fun, intelligent, and a great time to chat with. So, okay, I think we only have a couple more, and we'll close out the show. So let's get to them.
Hey, Matt, it's Brad from Pennsylvania. I don't know if I made it in time for your mailbox or not. I just got to watch Raw, actually, this morning. It's Wednesday today. I was on a quick little vacation with the family to the Great Wolf Lodge in the Poconos. It's actually a cool place if you're ever near there. But anyway, the things I want to talk about today, number one, with the whole Bobby Lashley thing, I mean, I hope there's some kind of swerve here. I don't want to see Kofi fight Lashley for the belt in a Hell in a Cell. And honestly, like, I love Drew. I think he's great, but I don't want to see him in the title picture no more. I know you probably agree with that. I think we might have already went over that, or you did on your show or something. I know everybody loves Drew, but it's been long enough. I mean, if you're not going to let him hold the title, then get him out of the picture. I don't want to see it no more. And Kofi Mania 2 or whatever this is, like, no, he should have been the last person to come out and take the open challenge. I have no interest in seeing Kofi fight for the title, or even worse yet, win the title. But stuff I like Riddle and Randy. I like RK Bro. I think what they need to do is make Riddle a little more serious in this program. I think I could be wrong, but what I noticed after he beat Xavier, he gave him like a little stare down that might have been screaming, a heel turn maybe, hopefully. Maybe they could attack Kofi in the thing, him and Randy. I know. That's the other thing I almost forgot. Kofi, they made him look extremely weak and then had him beat Randy Orton in a roll-up, and now he's possibly fighting for the title again. I mean, Randy Orton RKO'd him and Xavier like they were little babies and rolled out of the ring like, ha-ha. So I don't want to see Kofi involved in that at all. I'd like to see Morrison get maybe a little bit of a push now that The Miz is apparently hurt or whatever. He's not going to be around for a little bit from what I heard. So I'd like to see Johnny Drip get a little push here. Maybe get into the U.S. title picture. I think he's on Raw. I forget, but and then Roman and the Bloodline. My mailbag from last week is still relevant. They still have the Nobody's B-word shirt on the WWE shop for Jay and for Jimmy, and nothing really came about from that yet. So I just wanted to hit on those couple things real quick, and that's about it, Matt. Have a good week. I'll talk to you next week.
Hey there, Brad, and good to hear from you. So, yes to a lot of what you said. I really can't dispute it, and I have mentioned this. If you've listened this far, then you know that some of my answers have already been said to, or responses have been said to these topics. And, I didn't think about John Morrison in the title picture. I'm not a John Morrison and Miz fan, but perhaps if he gets a little more serious and stops being a 15-year-old sophomore in high school, that would be cool. And also Riddle with a serious side. It's possible that they do turn Matt Riddle heel. While we're all waiting for the RKO from Randy Orton to drop on Riddle, perhaps it's the other way around, and Riddle goes full heel, and Randy Orton turns babyface. The only thing, and Randy Orton is a babyface, I guess, by default right now, but Randy is, has made it very clear that he's not, if he had a preference, he'd rather be a heel. I agree. Randy as a heel is really, really good. Him as a babyface he's so talented, it works, but if I had a preference as well, him as a heel is more entertaining. Now, when you look at the roster, as I said in my previous answers, the babyface roster is just thin as hell. The babyface depth roster in terms of star power is weak at best. So, it's a little rough right now, and Kofi Kingston I have no interest in at all. I don't need to repeat that 100 times. But, you make some good observations, Brad. Thanks for calling in. Much appreciated, and look forward to your thoughts next week. So let's get to that final voicemail of the day. And I think this is, again, Mr. DJ Kuzmo back at it. So let's hear what he has to say to finish out this show.
This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again one more time. I just have to contain my emotions and the excitement of that Aiden Verk has been released. But now let's talk about SmackDown. This past Friday night, we had an incredible fatal four-way for the IC title. And to close off this awesome match, we have the return of Aleister Black. Man, did y'all see the black mask that he did to Big E? Literally, I thought Big E's head was about to basically fall off his body. And I was excited to see Aleister Black back. We saw all these vignettes week after week after week. I was waiting to see when is Aleister Black going to return. And he returned this past week on Friday Night SmackDown. And now I want to see what's going to happen next in this program. It seems like we're going to have Big E versus Aleister Black. And I don't know what's going on with the IC title picture. I don't know if you're going to have Apollo Crews and Kevin Owens and mixed in with Sami Zayn. I don't know what's going on with that picture, but it's great to see Aleister Black. And I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, he posted a picture of a very sadistic look that he has with the whole mask and the whole horns and everything. Very sadistic stuff. Man, oh man, I like this type of character development. And if you look at SmackDown has a lot of good heels. We're talking about Roman Reigns. We're talking about Apollo Crews' heel turn. And now we're talking about Aleister Black. I like the creativity that was happening on SmackDown. I wish I could see that on Monday Night Raw. But man, oh man, this was a great thing to see Aleister Black back on SmackDown. And hopefully in the near future, we should see him in the IC title picture. That's all I got to say, and I'll talk to you all next time.
All right, DJ gets round 2 here on the WWE podcast to round out the mailbag show. So, Aleister Black, I'm glad you brought him up. I think this is the first time I've talked about him here on the mailbag, and it's great to see him back. We knew he was a dark character to begin with, but now he's taken it a level deeper. I mean, perhaps he and Alexa Bliss can team up at some point. I know they're on opposite brands. Yeah, he's pretty dark. I mean, when you start talking about satanic symbols and horns and stuff, I mean, that's dark stuff, real dark stuff. I know that it's part of a production. I get it. But man, oh man, it has some, really, really dark implications. So that said, Aleister Black is a heel. I think he's always meant to be a heel. He and Big E are going to put on a really good program. The Black Mass that we saw on Big E was concussion inducing. At least that's how it looked. I would not want to be on the receiving end of Black Mass. He took it right on the chin. I mean, there was no hands up. It was a flat foot right to the face. And, that's rough. That's rough, my friends. So I'm interested in seeing this program. I think he will be interjected into the title picture, perhaps even win the IC title. And you know what? I'm okay if Big E doesn't win the IC title again, at least in the short term, because that frees him up to do what, folks? You got it, into the Universal title picture. It's not a bad thing when a babyface drops a mid-level to upper card, a mid to upper card title, because that means they're available to go up to that next level rather than holding the belt, which means they are now they're locked into that level. So I'm not going to be overly disappointed if Big E doesn't recapture the IC belt at this point, but certainly Aleister Black will. And I was also thinking, who is the biggest babyface on SmackDown? Who is that? Big E, Cesaro, Daniel Bryan's gone. Roman Reigns is killing it. So they, as a whole, it's a epidemic right now. It's a big problem in WWE. I will continue to emphasize the lack of babyface star power is egregious on all fronts. It's egregious. So yes, you have Bianca Belair on the women's division, but on Raw you have Rhea Ripley, who's kind of in between. Charlotte, who's cast as a heel. You have Alexa Bliss, who's cast as a heel. On SmackDown, you have Bayley, you have Sasha Banks, both heels. You have, is Naomi still there? Naomi kind of faded into nothing. Lana is nothing. She's just not. You have, of course, Tamina. You have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who are cast as heels. It's a lot of heel heaviness and no babyface power. It is a big, big problem right now. So we'll have to see what they do. But yes, Mr. DJ, thank you for closing things out in a fun way. And thank you to everybody listening. If you'd like to participate, you can do so by emailing the show at realwwepodcast@gmail.com. Head on over to our voicemail at 518-952-0247 and leave a voicemail for us, 3 minutes or less, and we'll get you on the show. And I'd encourage you, as you listen to this, to head to our Patreon page. We just dropped a Wrestling Nostalgia last night, or I just dropped one, and it covered HBK versus John Cena at WrestleMania 23. I had a lot of fun covering that particular match, and it really brought chills to my body as I watched it again. And so I'd encourage you to go to Patreon, and for $1 you get that show and a bunch of other stuff. So check it out. Thank you, everybody, as always, and I'll talk to you next time.